Dubai International Financial Center, your gateway to growth.
This week on CNN Marketplace Middle East, special coverage of the World Petroleum Congress in Spain. Oil prices hit new highs as energy leaders meet in Madrid. Has the world seen the worst of the fuel price spikes? Plus, supply and demand. While global consumers feel the squeeze, OPEC says there's enough oil on the market. We'll talk with the cartel's president, Aqib Khalil. Hello and welcome to CNN Marketplace Middle East. I'm John Defterios in Madrid, where we're here for the World Petroleum Congress, a huge event held every 3 years. Energy ministers and oil company executives met to discuss the rising price of fuel, which hit another record this week. While most of the world is clamoring for relief, leaders here would not confirm whether prices have peaked.
Significant technology introduction.
The last time OPEC heavyweights from the Middle East and CEOs from the oil majors rubbed shoulders under the banner of the World Petroleum Congress, a barrel of crude was just $50. Today, it's nearly 3 times that amount, and oil executives here in Madrid were reluctant to say we have seen the end of the price spikes.
I've been always saying that price will definitely climb, and unfortunately, I was right to level I did not expect and don't like.
I keep telling the market I always wrong in terms of the gassing price. But we did forecast every year. We never using $140 price as a forecast for our budget.
A few years ago, energy consultants were expecting capacity to expand to 100 million barrels a day, a 20% increase. That never materialized. And at the same time, Asian economic growth and energy consumption are running at 3 times the level of developed countries like Spain. The constant thirst for energy, notably from China and India, is the primary reason the International Energy Agency sees rising consumption for the next 5 years. That high demand is translating into a nasty mixture in the U.S. and Europe of stagnating growth and high inflation.
The high prices is impacting on OECD countries like US or Europe. It is declining. But in China, India or Middle East, their demand is still increasing and very, very robust.
The IEA is calling it the third oil shock after price spikes in the early 1970s and 80s, and it's affecting behavior. In the U.S., the miles driven dropped for the first time in a quarter century. In the U.K., 2/3 of those surveyed said they are cutting down trips by car. Meanwhile, what many call 3-digit oil, anything over $100, is leading Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, and Kuwait to accelerate field development. OPEC nations will spend $200 billion on production expansion over the next 5 years.
There aren't any quick fixes that are going to change that situation over the next few years. It'll just be a gradual, steady increase in production as some of these new assets come on stream.
In the immediate term, there's no shortage of dialogue here, just an inability to ease price pressures. OPEC provides 40% of the world's oil, but controls the bulk of the spare capacity these days. And outside of Saudi Arabia, other members of the cartel are not eager to boost production, asserting there are ample supplies. I caught up with the president of OPEC, Aqib Khalil, and began by asking him if the record prices are justified.
I think prices are too high, and they don't really reflect, fundamentals, which means supply and demand. We have an equilibrium in supply and demand. We have a high level of stocks, about 53 days, which is higher than last year. So we could not really explain it by supply and demand. And the big difference between last year, first semester, and this first semester is what happened in August, September of 2007, which means the subprime crisis, which led to the devaluation of the dollar and the entry of speculators, in the market. So that's one factor. The second factor is geopolitical problems, and especially the threat, on Iran. And of course, we have the bioethanol, I think, which plays a very important role, which was introduced about that time.
You shocked the market by saying that oil could go near term to $150 to $170 a barrel. What factors are you using to come up with that number?
I think the 3 factors is basically the value of the dollar. And most people expect, devaluation of the dollar probably July, August. not because of action by the Fed, but probably by action by the central bank, European Central Bank, which will actually lead to a de facto devaluation of the dollar, which will have an impact on oil prices. The second is the fact that we have, worsening geopolitical situation with maneuvers by Israel in the Western Mediterranean, the visit by some high-level military people from the U.S. to Israel, and also, I think, one important aspect, which is the high level of consumption of gasoline during the summertime.
Why hasn't the announcement by Saudi Arabia at the Jeddah meeting to increase production by 500,000 barrels a day and then say it has additional production over the next 3 or 4 years impacted the market in your view?
Well, just because basically what I said before, which means we have an equilibrium between supply and demand. So if you're going to put more oil in the market, somebody has to buy it. If there is no use for that oil, it's going to go into stocks. So basically the market doesn't see that as a major factor, so it's not going to really react to increased supply in the market. It is going to react very sharply to anything that happens to the dollar and anything that happens in the geopolitical situation.
Coming up on Marketplace Middle East, more of our conversation with OPEC President Aqib Khalil, including the link between record prices and the futures market. We'll explore the role of speculators in today's energy equation.
Dubai International Financial Center, your gateway to growth.
Business in the Middle East is just booming, and the region is transforming at an incredible pace. In the past couple of years, the region has developed into one of the largest growth areas of the world. The DIFC, with its very attractive legal and regulatory framework, is a preferred gateway to this region, ideally positioned between the Western and Eastern financial markets. Deutsche Bank, as one of the leading global investment banks, has a strong commitment to this promising region, which offers substantial business opportunities today and even more so tomorrow.
Dubai International Financial Center, your gateway to growth.
Montenegro. Experience wild beauty.
Dubai International Financial Center, your gateway to growth.
Welcome back. We're in the Plaza de Cibeles in the heart of Madrid, where this week the Spanish Prime Minister, Rodríguez Zapatero, met criticism for not calling the current economic slowdown and energy price squeeze a crisis. While consuming nations continue to struggle, producing nations have not. We rejoin our conversation now with the president of OPEC by asking him if there's a consensus amongst members to leave production where it is.
If I had a demand in the market, I would have responded and met that demand. And I think that's the statutes of OPEC is really to make sure that we meet the market demand and not really control prices like some people would believe, that that's the role of OPEC. We're going to have a meeting in September. We're going to, evaluate the market situation and take the appropriate decision. If we need more oil in the market, we're going to take that decision in September and make sure we meet the demand.
Let's look out to September, though, and the demand that we see because of the slowdown in the U.S. and Europe. Do you think more oil is needed in the autumn?
Well, as of now, I don't think there is more oil needed. You just said it. I think there is a slackening demand because of the economic growth slowing down throughout the world. We do have some seasonal increase in summer, but after that, we're going to go back to slower demand. So basically, we're going to have more supply than demand in the market. So probably have increase in stocks. So this really doesn't warrant any more oil, in the market at this stage.
The other thing I was going to talk to you about is the influence of the futures market. Is it realistic for, say, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission to intervene and say what's behind the speculation in the market realistically?
Well, we believe, actually there is, speculation. Of course, there is some investment funds, and there's some hedging being done in the market. And I think nobody really understands the connection between the spot market and the future market. And I think we need really to investigate that. And I think some of the senators in the U.S. are doing that, especially in the British market, ICE.
Would you suggest intervention, though?
Well, intervention, I don't know, but that's a decision that needs to be made after, we find out what's the connection and what's happening in the market. We don't really know. I don't think even the specialists in the area, know what's happening.
Are you surprised by the daily demand that's still holding up around 87 million barrels a day despite the Western slowdown?
Not really, because I think the major increase in demand is coming from developing countries, especially in the Middle East and India and China. So those economies were not really affected by what's happening in the U.S. And I doubt they'll be, affected in the future because their economies are really, sustained by the internal demand rather than their connection with the outside economies.
Khalil told me if it wasn't for the U.S. mortgage crisis, the introduction of bioethanol, and geopolitical tensions, oil would actually be well below $100 a barrel. Up next week on Marketplace Middle East, Iraq's brain drain. Violence in the war-torn country has chased away much of its intellectual talent. Morgan Neal takes a look at the Iraqi government's push to get homegrown professionals to return. Be sure to tune in for that. For more information about our program, check out our website at cnn.com/MME or send your comments via email to mme@cnn.com. That's all for this special edition of CNN Marketplace Middle East from Madrid. Thanks for watching. I'm John Defterios. We'll see you next week.
Dubai International Financial Center, your gateway to growth.